The children of the Corvith Empire always fell silent when the elders spoke of humans. Not because they believed the stories, most didn't, but because something in the way the tales were told made their skin prickle with instinctive fear. Humans, they said, were a species of contradictions, brilliant and savage, capable of breathtaking beauty and horrifying destruction. But that was all ancient history now, myths told to teach younglings about the dangers of nuclear fire and unchecked warfare. They burned their own world, the storytellers would whisper. Before they could even reach the stars, they destroyed themselves in a final, terrible war. Nothing remained but radioactive ash and silence. No one questioned these stories. After all, no human ruins had ever been found. No artifacts, no transmissions, no grave markers scattered among the stars. The humans had simply never existed beyond the imaginations of ancient scribes, or so everyone believed. Captain Ten Jorith certainly believed it. He commanded the patrol cruiser Wandering Compass through the outer Meridian sector, a region so quiet and empty that assignment there was basically a punishment for officers who'd angered someone important. Jorith had angered many important people with his habit of speaking uncomfortable truths, and now he drifted through the void scanning absolutely nothing. "Captain," Scanner Officer Quellis called from her station, her 4 eyes narrowing at her displays. "I'm detecting gravitational anomalies. Multiple signatures, large ones." Jorith didn't even look up from his report. "Cosmic dust clouds. Log it and move on." "Sir, these readings don't match dust patterns. The mass displacement is enormous, but there's nothing visible." "Then it's a sensor malfunction." Jorith finally glanced at her, his expression tired. "Quellis, we've been out here for 8 months. 8 months of staring at empty space. Our equipment is old, our ship is barely holding together, and Command doesn't care enough to send us replacement parts. Ghost readings are normal." Quellis's mandibles clicked together in frustration, but she returned to her console. Except the readings weren't going away. They were multiplying. Her screens showed massive gravitational distortions spreading across a volume of space larger than most planetary systems, yet her visual senses showed only stars and darkness. Light years away, in a place the galaxy had forgotten to map, Operative Myra Voss stood in the observation deck of the Sentinel's Echo and watched those same stars. She was 37 years old by Earth's calendar, which meant nothing anymore. Earth's calendar had stopped the day they fled. "Still monitoring the Corvith patrol?" a voice asked behind her. Myra didn't turn. "Yes. They've detected the gravitational wake from our positioning maneuvers. The scanner officer is competent, but her captain's dismissing it." Colonel Brent Halverson joined her at the viewport. He was older than Myra by 2 decades, old enough to have been born on Earth itself before the Exodus. His face carried the weight of 3,000 years of human history, not his own lifetime, but the collective memory of a species that had learned to survive in the dark. "The Voidborn have entered the sector," Halverson said quietly. "Long-range scouts confirmed it an hour ago. 3 seed ships, headed directly for the Corvith colony worlds." Myra's jaw tightened. Seed ships. The Voidborn didn't build vessels, they grew them from consumed matter, each ship a cancerous organism that fed on planets, stations, and living beings, converting everything into more ships, more weapons, more hunger. Humanity had fought the Voidborn for centuries in the dark spaces beyond the galactic rim. They'd learned to hurt them, even kill them, but never to stop them permanently. "How long until they reach populated systems?" Myra asked. 72 hours at current trajectory. "And the Corvith military response time?" "Best case? 5 days. They don't even know the Voidborn exist." Halverson's voice carried bitter irony. "They think humans are fairy tales. They have no idea what's really lurking in the dark." Myra finally turned to face him. "Then we're out of time. We need authorization to decloak. General Thorne is convening the Command Council now." "But Myra..." Halverson hesitated. "Once we reveal ourselves, there's no going back. The galaxy will know we exist. They'll know we've been watching them for 3 millennia. Some will see us as saviors. Others will see us as liars, spies, or worse." "I know." Myra looked back at the stars, at the invisible fleet surrounding them, thousands of warships humanity had built in exile, each one a masterpiece of desperate innovation. "But if we don't act, millions will die. We didn't survive this long just to watch another species fall to the Voidborn." Halverson nodded slowly. "I'll tell Command you're ready." Aboard the Wandering Compass, Quellis suddenly jerked upright. "Captain!" The gravitational readings just spiked across 17 sectors simultaneously. This time, Jorith noticed the alarm in her voice. He moved to her station, studied the display, and felt his blood chill. The anomalies weren't random. They formed patterns. Formations. Sir, Quellis whispered. Whatever's out there, it's enormous. And it's everywhere. In the observation deck of the Sentinel's Echo, Myra Voss received the transmission she'd been waiting 3,000 years to hear. All units, General Thorne's voice echoed through every human ship in the Hidden Fleet. Authorization confirmed. Execute Revelation Protocol. Show them we never died. Show them why we're called humanity. Myra touched the console, her hand steady despite her racing heart. Sentinel's Echo to all ships. Decloak on my mark. Across 100 star systems, quantum shrouds that had hidden humanity's fleet for millennia began to fail, deliberately, precisely, dramatically. 3, 2, 1, mark. And the darkness ignited with fire. General Marcus Thorne had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. For 3,000 years, humanity had existed as shadows, observers, watchers, ghosts haunting the edges of a galaxy that had declared them extinct. Now, standing on the bridge of the dreadnought Prometheus Reborn, he watched as 30,000 human warships materialized simultaneously across charted space, and he felt the weight of history crashing down like a physical force. Decloaked complete, Lieutenant Yora Chen reported from Tactical. Her voice was steady, but Thorne could see her hands trembling slightly. She was young, born on the colony ship New Horizons 60 years ago, had never seen Earth except in historical archives. This moment terrified her as much as it thrilled her. All vessels reporting successful phase transition. The galaxy can see us now, sir. Then let's make sure they understand what they are seeing, Thorne said. Open channels on all known frequencies. Broadcast in every major language. The communication officer nodded, and Thorne stepped forward. He was 68 years old, gray-haired but strong, his uniform bearing no medals or decorations. Humanity had stopped awarding such things after the Exodus. Survival was the only achievement that mattered. People of the galaxy, Thorne began, his voice transmitting across thousands of light-years. You know us as myths. As cautionary tales told to frighten children. You believe we destroyed ourselves before we could leave our homeworld. You are wrong. Across civilized space, billions of beings stopped what they were doing and listened. We are humanity. We did not die. We left, driven into exile by our own mistakes and by an enemy you have never encountered. For 3,000 years, we have lived in the dark places beyond your maps, fighting a war you never knew existed. Now that enemy has returned. They are called the Voidborn, and they are coming for you. Thorne paused, letting the words sink in. You have 72 hours before they reach your colonies. We know because we've been tracking them for centuries. We are here to fight beside you. The fairy tale is over. The war begins now. He closed the channel and turned to Chen. Status on the Voidborn seed ships. Still on intercept course for the Corvus mining colony Tertius 9. Population, 47,000. Chen's display showed the 3 massive Voidborn vessels, organic nightmares that moved through space like swimming predators. They'll arrive in 6 hours. Then so will we. Helm, best speed to Tertius 9. Light years away, on that very mining colony, Engineer Davos Kreit was having the worst day of his considerably long life. As a member of the Corvus species, Davos had lived for 300 years, which gave him perspective most younger beings lacked. He'd seen empires rise and fall, had watched technological revolutions transform society, had survived 2 wars and a plague. But nothing, had prepared him for the moment when something impossible appeared on every screen across the colony simultaneously. A human face. Speaking words that couldn't be true. That's a hoax, his supervisor, Pendra, declared, her scales flushing with agitated colors. Obviously fabricated. Humans never existed. The transmission is coming from 30,000 different points in space, Davos said slowly, studying his engineering console. 30,000 ships that our sensors can't classify. Pendra, what if it's real? Don't be ridiculous. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in immediately, bathing the colony in red illumination. Alarms shrieked. Davos's console erupted with warnings he'd never seen before: atmospheric breach, hull integrity failing, gravitational anomalies, and one message that made his 3 hearts stop beating. Unknown vessels detected. Unknown vessels detected. Unknown vessels detected. What's happening? Pendra demanded. Davos pulled up the external cameras and immediately wished he hadn't. 3 shapes had emerged from dark space, massive, organic, impossibly wrong. They looked like someone had twisted metal and flesh together into configurations that hurt to perceive. Black tendrils extended from their hulls, reaching toward the colony like the fingers of drowning giants. "Oh gods," Davos whispered. The human was telling the truth. The Voidborn had arrived. The nearest tendril touched the colony's outer ring. Immediately, the metal began to dissolve, breaking down into component molecules that flowed toward the alien vessel like water circling a drain. Workers in that section screamed, brief, horrible sounds that cut off as they too were consumed and converted. "Evacuation!" Pendra was shouting. "Everyone to the escape pods." But Davos knew the math. The colony had 300 pods. 47,000 people. They'd lose 90% of the population before the Voidborn finished feeding. He ran anyway, following the panicked crowd, his mind racing through impossible calculations. The Voidborn vessels were converting matter at approximately 700 metric tons per second. At that rate, the entire colony would be gone in. An explosion of light filled the viewport so brilliant that Davos threw his arms over his eyes. When he could see again, his breath caught in his throat. Ships. Hundreds of them, appearing from nowhere like materializing dreams. They were sleek and deadly, covered in glowing lines that pulsed like veins filled with fire. Each one bristled with weapons that humanity's desperate centuries had perfected. The human fleet had arrived. "All Voidborn vessels, mark your targets," General Thorne's voice was ice and iron. "Fire at will." The Prometheus Reborn opened fire first, its main cannon releasing a beam of concentrated plasma that had been refined over 3 millennia of warfare. It struck the nearest sea ship dead center, and the Voidborn organism screamed, a sound that shouldn't have existed in vacuum but somehow did, vibrating through hull metal and bone alike. Lieutenant Chen coordinated the assault with mechanical precision. Destroyer groups Alpha through Delta, target the feeding tendrils. Cruiser wings, concentrate fire on the propulsion organs. Frigates, establish defensive perimeter around the colony. The battle was surgical, brutal, and shockingly one-sided. The Voidborn were ancient and terrible, but humanity had spent 30 centuries learning how to kill them. Every weapon, every tactic, every ship design existed for one purpose: to fight this enemy and win. Davos watched through the viewport, transfixed. The human weapons didn't just destroy the Voidborn ships, they prevented them from regenerating, from converting the damage into new tissue. Specialized munitions broke down the alien matter faster than it could adapt. It was beautiful and terrifying. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 3 Voidborn seed ships were scattered debris, and not a single human vessel had been lost. As the colony's emergency crews began damage control, a human shuttle approached, requesting permission to dock. Davos found himself in the greeting party, standing beside Pendra as the airlock opened. General Marcus Thorne stepped through, followed by a security detail. He was tall for a human, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "You're real," Davos said stupidly. Thorne's expression softened slightly. "Very real. And very sorry we couldn't arrive sooner. We lost 347 of your people before we could engage." "You saved 4 to 6,000, Davos counted. "That's... I don't understand. Why? You've been hiding for 3,000 years. Why reveal yourselves now? Why save us?" Thorne met his gaze directly. "Because we're tired of hiding. Because the Voidborn are pushing into populated space again, and if we don't stop them, they'll consume everything. And because..." He paused. "Because we remember what it's like to be alone and afraid, facing extinction. We wouldn't wish that on anyone." "But the stories say you're dangerous," Pendra interjected. "That you destroyed your own world." "We nearly did," Thorne admitted. "That's true. We made terrible mistakes. But we learned from them. We've spent 3,000 years becoming better than we were. Now we're asking for a chance to prove it." Davos felt something shift inside him. The galaxy's bedtime monster was standing in front of him, asking for trust. Before he could respond, alarms blared again. Chen's voice crackled over Thorne's communicator. "General, long-range sensors have detected a massive dark space rupture. Sir, it's a Voidborn mothership. Estimated mass, larger than any planet." Thorne's expression didn't change, but Davos saw his jaw tighten. "Location. Heading for the galactic core. If it reaches the dense population centers." Chen didn't finish. She didn't need to. Thorne turned back to Davos. "We're going to need help. Every species, every fleet, everyone who can fight. Will you stand with us?" Davos thought about the 4 to 6,000 lives just saved. He thought about the stories he'd heard as a child. He thought about what it meant to rewrite history. Yes, he said simply. We'll fight. Across the galaxy, the same conversation was happening on 1,000 worlds. And slowly, impossibly, species that had spent millennia fearing the human fairy tale began to rally behind the human fleet. The real war was about to begin. The galactic core blazed with the light of 1,000,000,000 suns, but even that ancient radiance dimmed when the void-born mothership emerged from dark space. It was vast beyond comprehension, a living planetoid of twisted matter, its surface writhing with tendrils thick as mountains, its core pulsing with hunger that had consumed galaxies before this one even existed. Aboard the command carrier Defiant Dawn, Operative Myra Voss studied the tactical display and felt a familiar cold settle in her stomach. She'd fought void-born siege ships, destroyers, even dreadnoughts. But a mothership was different. A mothership could birth 1,000 vessels, could consume entire solar systems, could adapt to any weapon thrown at it. Unified fleet status, she asked. The answer came from an unexpected source. Engineer Davos Kreit stood at the auxiliary console, his 4 eyes scanning data streams as he coordinated the defensive positions of 17 different species warships. In the 3 weeks since the Battle of Tertius 9, he'd become humanity's most effective liaison, partly because of his engineering brilliance, but mostly because he'd looked at humans and chosen to see allies instead of monsters. 247 vessels in formation, Davos reported. Corvith heavy cruisers, Selkith destroyers, Jaren carriers, Prythian support frigates. General Thorns united half the sector. He paused. It's still not enough, is it? Honestly? No. Myra stepped closer to the display. But it's more than we've ever had before. For 3,000 years, humanity fought alone. Now. She gestured at the massive fleet assembling around them. Now we have something the Voidborn never encountered. Unity. Inspiring speech, a new voice said. Pilot Senna re-entered the bridge, her Jaren frame moving with the liquid grace of her species. She was young, barely 30 standard years, with iridescent skin that shifted colors with her emotions. Right now, those colors flickered between determined gold and anxious purple. But I didn't volunteer for the suicide run to hear inspirational speeches. I volunteered because someone has to fly into that thing's core, and apparently I'm the best pilot in 2 sectors. 3 sectors, Myra corrected with a slight smile. Your simulation scores were impressive. I studied human tactics, Senna admitted. When I was a child, my grandfather told me the human stories, not as warnings, but as hopes. He said if humans were real, maybe the galaxy wasn't as empty and cold as it seemed. Maybe somewhere out there, someone was strong enough to face the darkness. Her colors shifted to melancholy blue. He died before you revealed yourselves. I wish he could have seen this. Myra placed a hand on Senna's shoulder, a human gesture of comfort that still felt foreign to most species. We'll make sure his hope wasn't wasted. The bridge door opened again, and General Marcus Thorne strode in, followed by Lieutenant Yora Chen and a holographic projection of Colonel Halverson from the Sentinel's Echo. The general looked exhausted but unbroken, carrying the weight of 30 centuries with practiced ease. Status report, he said simply. All strike teams are ready, Chen reported. Quantum disruptors armed and calibrated. If we can plant them at the mothership's core nexus points, we can disrupt its cellular cohesion long enough for the fleet to destroy it. If is doing a lot of work in that sentence, Halverson observed dryly. The mothership's defenses are absolute. Nothing gets through that hull without being converted into more voidborn tissue. That's why we're using the Earthborn, Thorne said quietly. Silence fell across the bridge. Every human present understood what that meant. The Earthborn was the oldest ship in the fleet, the original colony vessel that had carried the first refugees from Earth 30 centuries ago. It was a relic, a monument, the last physical connection to the homeworld they'd lost. Sir, Chen protested. The Earthborn is a ship, Thorne interrupted gently. Metal and systems, nothing more. Its real value was always the people it saved. Those people had children, who became us. The Earthborn already served its purpose. Now we're asking it to serve one last time. Davos spoke up hesitantly. What's the plan? Myra activated the tactical display, expanding it to show the mothership's internal structure, mapped painstakingly over centuries of failed assaults. The Voidborn mothership has 3 core nexus points where its neural tissue concentrates. If we destroy all 3 simultaneously, the organism loses cohesion and dies. The problem is reaching them. The Earthborn will be our delivery system, Thorne continued. We'll overload its fusion cores and fly it directly into the mothership's feeding maw. The Voidborn will try to consume it, pull it deep inside. That's when we detach strike teams, small craft hiding in the Earthborn's hull. They'll plant the disruptors while the mothership is focused on converting the main vessel. And the crew of the Earthborn? Senna asked. Skeleton crew of volunteers, Thorne said. They'll evacuate in the final 30 seconds before detonation. He paused. I'll be commanding personally. Absolutely not, Halverson snapped. Marcus, you're the fleet commander. Which is exactly why it has to be me, Thorne said firmly. The Voidborn have some form of distributed intelligence. They recognize threats. If they sense the Earthborn is a trap, they'll reject it. But if they sense humanity's greatest military leader is aboard, they'll take the bait. They've learned to prioritize high-value targets. Myra understood the brutal logic, even as she hated it. Who leads the strike teams? You do, Thorne said, meeting her eyes. Chen commands Team 2, Halverson takes Team 3. Pilot Ree, he turned to Senna. You'll fly Team 1. I've reviewed your records. You're exactly as good as everyone says. Senna's colors shifted to fierce crimson determination. I won't let you down. I know, Thorne said simply. Then he addressed the entire bridge. This is going to be the hardest fight humanity has ever faced. Many of us won't survive. But if we succeed, we won't just save this sector, we'll prove that extinction isn't inevitable. That broken species can rebuild. That the galaxy's monsters can become its protectors. He smiled slightly. Let's rewrite the ending to our fairy tale. 6 hours later, the unified fleet engaged the Voidborn mothership. The battle was chaos incarnate, hundreds of ships pouring fire into living flesh that regenerated as fast as it was destroyed. Korvath plasma cannons scored the mothership's hide. Selkith kinetic rounds punched through outer membranes. Prithian energy beams cauterized feeding tendrils. And through it all, the Earthborn advanced steadily toward the mothership's central maw. Inside the ancient vessel's retrofitted hull, Myra crouched in the cockpit of her strike craft alongside 11 other ships, each carrying a 3-person team and 1 quantum disruptor. She could hear Thorne's voice over the command channel, calm and steady as he guided humanity's oldest ship toward oblivion. All teams, prepare for insertion. 20 seconds until the mothership begins consumption. Myra watched through the viewport as the Voidborn's feeding orifice dilated, revealing a throat of pulsing tissue kilometers wide. The Earthborn accelerated directly toward it. 10 seconds. Teams, I want you to know, it's been an honor. The mothership's maw closed around them like the galaxy's largest predator swallowing its prey. Immediately, tendrils began wrapping around the Earthborn's hull, secreting acids designed to break down molecular bonds. Now! Thorne shouted. All teams, launch. The Earthborn's hull plating exploded outward in carefully calculated bursts, and 12 strike craft burst free like bullets from a gun. Myra's fighter accelerated hard, her pilot, a young human named Ferris, navigating through the mothership's internal passages with desperate skill. Behind them, the Earthborn exploded with the force of a small star. The mothership convulsed, its attention entirely focused on the massive energy surge. Strike Team 1, we're through. Senna's voice crackled over the comms. Approaching Nexus Point Alpha. Resistance is heavy, these things don't want us here. Myra's team reached Nexus Point Beta, a cathedral-sized chamber where neural tissue converged in sickening patterns. Voidborn antibodies, creatures of living shadow, swarmed toward them. Plant the disruptor. Myra shouted. Chen, Halverson, confirm your status. Nexus Gamma secured, Chen responded. Disruptor armed. 30 seconds to synchronization. Nexus Alpha armed, Senna added. Sir, did General Thorne evacuate? Silence answered her. Myra's blood ran cold. Command, do you have the General's transponder? Halverson's voice came through, thick with grief. He never left the Earthborn. The evacuation pods, he never activated them. Understanding crashed over Myra like a wave. Thorne had known the mothership might reject a truly empty vessel. So he'd stayed, sacrificing himself to make the bait irresistible. Finish the mission, Halverson said roughly. Don't let his death be meaningless. Myra's team secured their disruptor as Voidborn antibodies tore through their fighter. Ferris died buying them time. Myra activated the device with blood-slicked hands. All disruptors armed, she transmitted. Detonate on my mark. 3, 2, 1, Mark. The 3 quantum disruptors fired simultaneously, releasing pulses that shredded the mothership's neural cohesion at the molecular level. The massive organism spasmed, its regeneration halted, its consciousness fragmenting. All ships, concentrate fire. Halverson ordered. Destroy it now. The unified fleet poured everything they had into the dying mothership. Human plasma beams, alien particle weapons, kinetic rounds, missiles, 3,000 years of military technology unleashed in a single apocalyptic moment. The void-born mothership came apart like a diseased star collapsing, its matter scattering across the void in harmless fragments. Myra barely remembered the extraction, the desperate flight back to friendly lines, the moment her strike craft was caught by a Corvette cruiser's tractor beam. She sat in the rescue shuttle, numb, as the unified fleet celebrated humanity's greatest victory and mourned its greatest loss. 3 weeks later, on a newly established station orbiting a liberated world, Davos Kreit and Myra Voss stood before representatives of 4 to 7 species. The First Galactic Unity Council was convening, not to govern, but to coordinate. To ensure that what had been won in blood wasn't lost to politics. We're not asking you to forget the old stories, Myra said to the assembled delegates. Humanity did nearly destroy itself. We were dangerous, reckless, and broken. But we learned. We survived. We became something better in the darkness. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. General Thorne gave his life to prove that extinction isn't destiny. That broken things can be repaired. That the galaxy's monsters can become its protectors. Honor his sacrifice by building something worthy of it. Davos stepped forward. For 3,000 years, we told our children that humans were cautionary tales. I propose we tell them something different now. That humans are proof that even when you fall, you can rise again. That's not a fairy tale. That's hope. The Council voted unanimously to establish permanent cooperation protocols. It wasn't perfect unity, species still disagreed, tension still existed, but it was a beginning. That night, Myra stood alone in the observation deck, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Earthborn's debris still drifted, carrying General Marcus Thorne's remains back toward the Earth they'd all left behind. Senna Ree found her there, her colors muted and contemplative. My grandfather was right, the young pilot said softly. Humanity wasn't a warning about what could go wrong. You were always a promise about what could go right, if we're brave enough to try. Myra smiled despite her tears. Then let's make sure we keep that promise. Above them, the stars burned on, no longer witnessing a galaxy divided by fear, but united by a hope that refused to die. The fairy tale had ended. The real story was just beginning. And in the darkness between stars, humanity's remaining fleet kept watch, guardians born from fire, carrying the light of redemption across the endless night.